So we are here with,
The Undead.
okay, and we have the whole band with us. Could you introduce yourself and tell me what you do in the band?
Okay, sure. Start over that way, Joe.
I'm Joe, and I play drums.
Jason Frest, I play bass.
And sing. Diana Steele, guitar, keytar, and I sing.
Bobby Steele, guitar, vocals.
Okay. Now, Bobby, obviously you've been here the longest, right?
Yes.
Could you tell me what was your beginning in the music? What was it like? I mean, even going back to your childhood, how musical was your household?
It was pretty musical. My parents were into rock and roll music, so as early as I remember, we had like rock and roll on the radio and watched, the Ed Sullivan Show every Sunday to see the bands. And, that's how I was introduced to the Beatles and Dave Clark 5, the Rolling Stones, and like I said, my parents were really into rock and roll music. So my father actually exposed me to Black Sabbath and bands like that also. So I'd have to say I had a pretty musical family.
Okay. What about the rest of the band?
Yeah, I played piano when I was younger, but a little bit more in, I guess, classical and then rock.
I was actually a hair metal band. I was buying records for $1 when before, after vinyls were popular and before they became popular again. So I was finding them at flea markets for $1 a piece.
And still are.
Getting into Kiss and Metallica and Poison, 80s metal, stuff like that.
And then my family, no one's really musical except for me and my family. So it was more of me to, music. Yeah, I discovered it really myself. I started out, my first band I ever checked out was Kiss. That was my favorite band. Then I got introduced to the Ramones, and that got me into punk bands and hardcore bands, and that's how I got into the Undead.
There you go. So, Bobby, when did you realize that you could be doing it, not just listening to it and enjoying the records, but be on the other side of the stage?
It was just something I wanted to do since I was a kid when I saw the Beatles. And it wasn't until I was probably about 13, 14 that I started actually learning the guitar. And 16 when I started playing my first show. I was scared, but it kind of went over pretty well. So I just enjoyed it, so I just kept doing it because I enjoyed what I was doing and wasn't really concerned.
And what was your first band?
It was a band called Burlap Candle. Mm-hmm. It was just me and a couple of friends, and we pretty much just played in the basement, a couple of high school dances, and then moved on from there.
Mm-hmm. Great. Now, obviously, you became known with the Misfits.
Yeah.
That was your big break. What was it like to join a band like this? I mean, at that time, you guys were really unknowns, and nobody did anything like it. And how much input did you have in creating that sound?
Well, when I auditioned for them, I really liked the intensity of the sound. That's what really appealed to me. So that's what really got me, wanting to be with that band. And really, as far as the creativity of the sound, that was pretty much Glenn Danzig's thing. He wrote the songs, and I just added my own guitar style to it, and just took it from there.
Were there any particular songs that maybe you written with them?
No. Glenn wrote everything.
Okay. Now, your stay in Misfits didn't last long, right?
No.
That came and went, but you are still with us,
I
right?
moved on to the Undead.
So, how did you come about getting Undead off the ground? And why that name? And then,
well, actually, since I was a kid, I wanted to have a band called the Undead. Mm-hmm. And there was actually a movie that I used to love to watch when I was young. That was called the Undead, and I didn't realize that was the name of the movie because I never saw the beginning of it. But I was just the sound of the word Undead just kind of always kind of clicked with me. And once I left the Misfits, I'd already had a band before the Misfits called the Scabs. Mm-hmm. And when I left the Misfits, I just got back together with the two Scab guys and decided instead of calling it the Scabs, I'd rather go with the name of the Undead at that point. And it just kind of morphed into what it's become.
what about the rest of the band? What were some of your first bands and adventures on the other side of the stage?
The first band I was in, we practiced in a basement for 3 years. We never had a name, and I don't think we played any gigs. I think we just played for fun. It was it was a long time we were in a band. Then we just stopped calling each other. It ended just as quickly as it began.
And then this is actually my first band. I learned how to play drums around 8. That's when I really taught myself, to sit there and actually learn how to play. Played in the school band for, tons of years, and then the Undead, auditioned for the Undead, and that's my first band.
Okay. Now, before Undead really took off, what kind of idea did you have to make this band happen? Like, what was the concept? Because obviously, a lot of dark themes.
No, I just wanted to like have a punk band, you know, and I mean, we started off songs were like When the Evening Comes, it was, love songs, teen angst songs, just songs about just general life experiences, and I really didn't have much in the dark horror thing at that point, and I just kind of like started just kind of like doing analogies between like real life things and like horror, like The Invisible Man. It's not about the guy that like takes a drug and becomes invisible. It's about like people like that are ignored by society, like the homeless, and, people with like AIDS and things like that.
Mm-hmm. How long before you got a record deal?
We actually got a record deal within a year of our first gig.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like back in the early 80s? I mean, nowadays you can pretty much form a band on Wednesday and have a release by Friday. But back then, having a demo out was a success.
Yeah. Well.
So what was it like?
Excuse me a second.
Yeah.
Back then, you had access to like basement like 4-track recording studios, which is where we did our first recording at, and really can't get into much on that. I really don't have any definitive answer, I guess, as to like how it all came together, but it took work. It wasn't, I guess, like you're saying, like today, like anybody can just like go in their basement with a microphone and record. Back then, you had to like go to a studio and do something. The equipment wasn't as accessible.
Once the album came out, how long did it take for it to get a following?
We picked up a following really quick. At that point, it wasn't like there was like a dime a dozen of bands on the scene, and because I was already in a band that was known and everything, I was able to draw a crowd right away. So things picked up very quickly for us.
Now, you made a lot of records since. But one thing, and we discussed that earlier, your albums are very difficult to find. It's almost like you have to really navigate to find a band, but it's rewarding when you do find them. So how do you go about having a distribution, having it available, especially now in the age of the internet and whatnot?
Well, I had bad experiences with distributors in the beginning, where they would take like the records and then they'd never pay you for it.
Yeah.
So the record would like,
a lot of bands told me that story.
and then you couldn't afford to press more copies to meet the demand for them. So I just decided I was gonna like start going, when I would travel around the country, I would collect names of record stores. And so when I put out Act Your Age, I had this whole like list of record stores, and I just started contacting them all personally and sending them sample copies and then taking orders. And the record just took off like that because I was dealing directly with the stores. And that's what I pretty much still do.
Okay. What about like the fan base? How did they respond to this whole image? Do you find yourself that you have like a specific kind of following, or anyone out there can be into the Undead?
What would you say?
It's pretty wide. I was pretty surprised. It ranges from even metal and rock and punk, and it's got a little bit of, pretty diverse.
The band split up a few times, I believe, right?
Well, it didn't split up. I've turned over members a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I looked at your bio, there was a lot of members. Like, what does it take to be the member of the Undead?
I gotta like you. That's first and foremost.
Not get wasted.
And to maintain a position in the band, you've got to like kind of be a decent person. Like a lot of times people would either come into the band with the wrong idea of what the band was going to be. Think, okay, the band is it's the Undead. I'm going to be rich, and they're not rich after a few weeks. Now now that they feel like they got ripped off and they leave. And then there's also the issue of sometimes you get people and they come in and they have like a star attitude, and they're like rude to fans. They're rude to like people that are working at the clubs you're playing. So you can't do that kind of a thing.
And how important are the fans to you?
Oh, they're very important. They're like, face it, without the fans there'd be no bands.
A lot of fans have become friends.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
actually friends.
Yeah, we've really especially through Diana, on social media, we've developed a good relationship with a lot of fans.
Now, you guys kind of have the family thing going on right now,
Yeah.
right? So what's it like to be married and be in the band?
It's awesome.
I mean, that's
Makes it
very,
easy.
very few bands have that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really, to tell you the truth, if Diana wasn't in the band, I wouldn't be out on the road. You know, so it really it makes a big difference.
You're welcome, guys.
What's it like to work with someone like Bobby Steele?
Easy.
That was easy.
You can tell the truth.
It's easy. No, it's easy. I've known Bobby for a long time. He played with my band a couple times, the Dead Elvi, and we've known each other for a while, and it's easy. It's easy to work with them. It's easy to get along with them, both of them. And it's a lot of fun.
It's honestly amazing looking at something because I was such a huge Undead fan and also Misfits fan before I joined the band. So to join one of your favorite bands and playing with one of the people who pretty much influenced you is like, I'm a loss for words. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Now, Bobby, you mentioned social media, right?
Yeah.
How important is that to you now? Because when you started, people were writing letters.
Yeah.
That's the way it was.
Yeah, it turns out to be very important, and Diana's become like a real ace at dealing with it because I can't.
He gets a lot of fans too from the past that he had handwritten letters to, and called or spoke to on the phone or whatever, and they'll reach out and say, 30 years ago you wrote to me, or 20 years ago you took the time out to write to me, and you got me started and you gave me hope, and he's got a lot of respect with a lot of old fans. It's pretty cool.
Now, did you ever expect when you began with the Undead, or even with the Misfits, that the sound you created would become so iconic and so unique?
I actually did. When I first joined the Misfits, I told a lot of my friends back at home that I just got into this band, and this band had the potential to be the next big thing, like Kiss. And unfortunately, the guys in the band didn't think the same way about things, so they didn't really push things as hard as they could have. So when I got to the Undead, I was able to really make that push and really try to get things out there. So I'm just really glad it happened this way.
So the Undead in 2017, what's the plan of attack?
Well, right now we're just getting ready to release a new EP. It's going to be a 4-song EP. You want to tell them about it? I want to rest my voice.
Oh, it's kind of a throwback to the old beach movies, the Frankie and Annette movies, and he wanted to do this for a long time, and it's like a sort of a punk Beach Boys, I guess, surf rock. And we were fortunate, the guy that did the artwork for the Goosebumps books, Tim Jacobus, he actually did the cover for it, so it's pretty cool. And we're just really excited.
That's coming out in October.
And then we're working on, I think, kind of a 4-song video for it.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself getting any new offers from even the record labels these days?
No, they don't talk to us.
No?
No.
It's back
been
to being
DIY
independent?
too long.
Yeah, it's been independent by necessity, and I don't think record companies really understand what we're trying to do. Even in the past, record companies would talk, I'd bring them some new recordings, and they'd be interested, and they'd listen, and they say, oh, well, we were hoping this was going to sound more like your last record, but it doesn't. And then I bring them the following record, and they'd be like, oh, well, we were hoping it would be like the last record. I'm like, so don't you understand? You always want the record that you turned down before, so why don't you just take this one? And they could never catch on to it. That if you're gonna like this one next, so why don't you just grab it while you get a chance? And they don't seem to understand. They're very backward thinking, it seems.
Now, what about the fans in that regard? Because sometimes a sound could change, drastically or just a little bit, and all of a sudden, especially now with social media, people are going all over the place and saying this and that. How do you feel about that? I mean, you're a musician, you want to move forward.
It's kind of surprising because what I've actually noticed is we've got pretty much a standard sound, but it's when I kind of vary away from that,
Stay open-minded.
Yeah, it's on the Act Your Age album, we had Put Your Clothes Back On, which is a very poppy song, almost a dance song. And that turned out to be the most popular song off of that record with fans. And then on Till Death, it was Thorn in Your Side, which was a very slow, Phil Spector type of ballad. And that one people went crazy over. So I think our fans are really just they like to hear something, they like to hear me like kind of like take off a little bit.
They were
different.
complimentary about the other songs too.
Yeah.
Some
They were like, oh, he can still write.
Some fans of bands, if the band changes their format at all, their style at all, they completely freak out.
Yeah.
Like they turn on the band and
Yeah.
they suck and everything. But it seems that everyone's more open-minded than general.
It's always the same sound, just different variations of it. I mean, like with Bobby, I've noticed every record it sounds different than the one previous to it, which makes it even being the Undead discography like better than most punk bands in my opinion.
Now, speaking of all the Undead releases, is there any kind of a campaign about having all of them available again, redone, restored, remixed, but mainly available?
Yeah, there's been a lot of like requests for us to get the stuff on iTunes, which is something I have to work on. It's just
What about like in the physical format?
that I'd like to do, down the road also, as we can. Like right now we're trying to like work with the new stuff. We just barely can like get the new stuff out. So I don't want to like be wasting a lot of time on old stuff when there's new stuff that's available, in the works. But once we kind of get like where things are like, taken care of, we can start like looking at like doing some reissuing and stuff.
Recently, I went back and listened to some of the old songs, and one thing that struck me in one of the songs, you talk about kids being raised by computer, and the song goes back to maybe 1983, 1981.
Actually, that song was
whereas
like
now
79,
whereas now it's a true reality.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Did you expect that would have been that so prophetic?
No. Actually, the lyrics on that were written by Dave Street, a friend of mine, and he's written quite a few of the lyrics. And I don't know like what he was thinking when he wrote that, but I like the the ring of the words and stuff. And it's funny. It really has come around to like be that way.
It does.
Yeah.
It truly does. Especially myself working at school and seeing what's going on. Kids are addicted to it. Not even raised, addicted.
Really.
Finally, what would you say makes the longevity of this band?
I plead temporary insanity on that, I guess. I don't know.
Loyal fans.
It's like loyal fans, like whenever like I really just start wondering, there's been times when I just like kind of like said, maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore, and all of a sudden I get like a letter in the mail or an email from some fan saying how like, something, that I did like, changed their life, and, so it's been a big thing. And then like Diana coming into the picture, she just really like pushed me and encouraged me to like, start doing it again.
What do you guys think?
The fans.
Yeah, definitely.
Fans first and foremost,
And the songwriting itself.
Songwriting itself. And Diana, because like previously said, without her, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Now, also when I got here, I realized you guys travel in a very unusual mobile. Could you explain exactly what that is?
That was Diana's idea.
Yes.
She's got the ideas. Pablo about it.
Go for it.
It's a '94 Cadillac hearse with a Corvette engine, but it's really awesome. We use it as a daily driver.
Yeah.
Supermarket.
And how do the cities you visit react upon?
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well.
We're always driving, like people are like freaking out or something, or almost crashing into
a lot
us.
of rubbernecking.
Yeah.
But it's a conversation. I mean, we've actually met people through that, like in a parking lot at a rest stop, and we'll start talking, and next thing you know, it's like there's a connection because of a car.
Absolutely outstanding. Thank you guys.
Okay, thanks a lot.
you.
All right.